Good evening, gentlemen. We are live and we are live in 5 channels together as usual from Golf Bangladesh. Today, I have a distinguished senior journalist from India. He is Mr. Vikram Swamy. In short, we know him, Mr. Swamy. So, Mr. Swamy, first of all, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much. It's actually V. Krishnaswamy, and it's a very long name, Vishwanathan Krishnaswamy. But
Okay.
like I'm from southern part of India, from Chennai actually, but I live in Delhi in Gurgaon. And as the anchor said, Mr. Mahmood said, golf is my life. It's been my profession for 35 years, and I now devote myself fully to golf in terms of writing about
I
golf.
want to I want to know your journey, start of journey. Let me first introduce your rest of the things. My audience must know that you are one of the senior most journalists, has been working in media for more than 35 years, more than 3 decades. You covered 23 majors, 200 international golf events. You covered 7 Olympiad, 9 Asian Games, 7 Commonwealth Games, 200 golf tournaments, and also you travel 60 countries of the world. So kindly, can you share us the start of your golf journey? Where from you did start this writing on golf and working with golf?
To be very honest, I mean, I started as a journalist in 1982. I joined the Times of India. But even before that, when I was in college in Delhi University, I used to write for a couple of newspapers and magazines, even when I was just about 17, 18 years old. So I've actually been writing sports for more than 40 years. And 1982 was my first year, and that year India hosted the Asian Games, and golf was introduced in Asian Games for the first time, and India won the team gold medal and the individual gold medal and the individual silver medal also. So it was a great games for India in terms of golf, and ever since then India has done quite well in golf in terms of Asian Games. But after that, there were not too many big golf tournaments in India. There used to be the Indian Open, which was only the only major event in India. And so I used to do a little bit of golf, but I started doing golf seriously around 1989, 1988, 89. And I used to travel to Calcutta, which used to host the Indian Open every year. And it used to be 1 year in Delhi and 1 year in Calcutta. So I used to go to Calcutta, which also is my city of birth. I was born in Calcutta, but I studied in Delhi, and I now live very close to Delhi in Gurgaon, which is about 4 kilometers away from one of India's best known golf courses, the DLF Golf and Country Club, which hosts both the men's and the women's Indian Open, the Hero Women's Indian Open and the Hero Men's Indian Open. So I live very close to that. And from 1989 onwards, my love for golf kept increasing. And then, I used to work for the Times of India. I quit the Times of India 7 years later in 89. Then I moved to a smaller newspaper. And finally, in 1991, I started, or rather became the sports editor of a newspaper called The Pioneer, when the famous Mr. Vinod Mehta was the editor and the founder of the Delhi edition. And 5 years I worked there, and after that I joined the very well-known journalist Shekhar Gupta as the sports editor of the Indian Express, and I worked there for 5 years. And in 2000, I decided to become a kind of an independent journalist and consultant, because I felt there was a very big space, where people could actually use my golf expertise, the tournaments and things like that. And I also did a lot of television, so I produced golf programs, for the Indian television and also for 10 Sports. I used to make a capsule on Indian golf, the PGTI Tour at that time. It used to be called the PGAI Tour, the Professional Golf Association of India,
Yeah,
PGAI.
yeah,
And later it became the PGTI.
yes.
So, so that is how my involvement in golf was there. And actually, I think one of the biggest turning points for me to fall in love with golf was 1991, when Ali Sher won the Indian Open. The Indian Open in New Delhi for the first time. he became the first Indian professional to win the Indian Open. And I think that was the turning point in Indian golf. Before that, in 1965, Billu Sethi, as an amateur, had won the second edition of the Indian Open, beating the legendary Peter Thompson. But as a professional, Ali Sher was the path breaker. And even today, Ali Sher is a very good friend of mine. He then won the tournament again in 1993. And thereafter, I have been covering golf like the Indian Open every single year. So I have covered every single Indian Open since 1988-89. So, so my love for golf is absolutely very, very intense and deep. So I have been to the tournaments every year, and for the last 15, 20 years, I've been the media consultant for the tournament. And I've written a book on the tournament. And then I have been to every single Women's Indian Open held in India since 2007. And again, I have written a book on that also. So for me, golf is a very big part of my life.
Okay, I'll come back. A lot of audience have already joined in, and I must take few names like from Myanmar. As I was saying, Miss Kwe had joined, and
Oh, she's
we
a very good friend. Tway. Hi, Tway.
okay. So Mr. Joy Sharma, Mr. Nikhil, Mr. Atul Goni, other audience also have joined. All are expressing their best wishes and want to know about you. That means you have many followers. Nikhil Singh also has joined. So I let me go to the second query. That I know that you have been working with golf for long time. That speaks you have wrote number of books like Steeped in History, Story of Indian Golf, then History of Women's Indian Open, and then beside that you have written recently two very renowned book on Sachin Tendulkar and Mr. P.V. Sindhu cricketer. So now can you share us little bit little more? You have been telling the start of Indian golf and all. As you have covered 23 major events of golf, you have seen golf, you understand golf, you have got inside golf. So that speaks. So you know the history of Indian golf and Asian golf in greater aspect. So 35 years of your experience. Can you kindly little more highlight little more on Indian subcontinent golf, professional golf?
You see, golf actually came into India, even though India has the second oldest golf club in the world outside of the British UK, which is the Royal Calcutta Golf Club, which was established in 1829. So, we are just 9 years short of 200 years. So it really has a very, very strong history in terms of India. And we have a lot of other golf courses in India which are more than 100 years old. So golf courses were a legacy left to India by the British who ruled us, or rather who were here in India till 1947. But the fact is that even before that, there were a lot of very good golf amateurs, Indian amateurs, like the players from the Malik family who were extremely good. I.S. Malik, who is the father of Ashok Malik, who won the All India Amateurs 5 times. I.S. Malik was one of the most famous golfers, amateur golfers, and many believe that I.S. Malik, Billu Sethi, Ashok Malik, Vikramjit Singh, such absolutely renowned amateurs who came before the likes of, say, Ranjit Nanda or, Bunny Lakshman Singh, Rajiv Mohta. They were all very, very good golfers who could have been very excellent professionals. But at that time, the amount of money for professional golf was very, very small. So into the 70s and the 80s, there was professional golf. And one of my close friends used to be a very good golfer in the 1980s, Brandon D'Souza. And he ran the PGAI for many, many years. And so they were actually, he was from Calcutta. They ran golf. As a player, he played, but the money was really not much. And many of the golfers who played golf at that time, they came from very well-off families. And slowly but steadily, golfers from the ranks, people who had started out as caddies, they started taking to golf and made golf a career. So then it started growing in the 80s, became a bigger thing in the 1990s. And then when we had players like, say, G. Milkha Singh, one of the path breakers of Indian golf, when he went to America to study in Christian college, and he did extremely well in the college golf there. And when he came back and turned professional, he started playing in many tournaments in Malaysia, in Philippines, etc., which was the beginning of what was then called as the Asian Tour, Asian PGA, which was set up in 1995. So from there, when it started, and at that time, when G was playing in 1995, Tway's brother Sheila
Yeah,
Han was
Chila.
one of the top golfers of Asia. He was an Asian number one,
Yeah.
and one of the very renowned golfers. And
Mm.
it's my privilege that he is one of my friends, and I know him very well. And in fact, he used to play with many of these Indian boys. And then as things continued in the 1990s, as I said, Ali Sher winning the Indian Open in 1991, and then again in 1993, that became a landmark or a milestone for Indian golf. And that continued with Firoz Ali winning the Indian Open in 1998, and then Arjun Atwal winning in 1999, and Jyoti Randhawa made it a hat trick in 2000. And I think from there on, Indian golf has never looked back. And Jeev Milkha Singh, even though he didn't win the Indian Open, he was the first Indian golfer to make Indian golf, a big thing across all countries and across all of Asia. And my tryst, or rather my journey with the majors, began in 2007 when G. Milkha Singh became the first Indian to qualify and play at the Augusta Masters. And Jeev, who's an extremely close friend and a very valued friend, he actually invited me to the Augusta, and I stayed with Jeev. Then Jeev stayed in a hotel, and I stayed in a house along with the rest of his family, including his brother-in-law and the rest of them. And we had a great time. And Jeev Milkha Singh then played three consecutive Masters. And from 2011-12 onwards, I have never missed a single Masters. And many of the Masters, I've had the excellent company of Sheila Han with me at Augusta, and he's really been fantastic. So, as I said, for me, not just Indian golf, but Asian golf, even with Tway, who set up the Asian Tour event in India, the Panasonic. I mean, she has been a great friend. For me, Asian golf itself has been like my own family, So I have actually grown there. I go to a lot of tournaments each year, and Tway has even invited me, and I've been to Myanmar to see the Myanmar, the Leopold Palace tournament there. So for me, I've been very lucky. I've had great friends in golf. I've seen the best of Indian golf. I've seen it grow, and now we have some of the best players in the world. I would say who are in Asia. They're playing in Europe. They're playing in America. So, and we have women golfers all over the place on the LPGA, on the LET. So I would say that the Indian domestic tour is a very established one. The Indian women's tour is growing. So I think I've been privileged to see the growth of Indian golf in a very big manner. So I would say it's been a lucky journey for me and a very eventful one.
That's great to learn from you all this. I mean, I don't know how many journalists have this luck to cover 23 majors of golf, and then 7 Olympiad, 9 Asian Games, 7 Commonwealth, and again I repeating why 200 plus golf tournaments, travel 60 countries. Why I'm repeating, because as a media personality, you have crossed 35 years. Now my point is about media. What do you think that what should be the role of media to cover golf? Because this is where our investors, our sponsors, they look at it. In third world countries, while it matters about role of media, investors do not come, sponsors lose the interest if media is not there in proper. So how do you see the role of media in covering golf tournaments, especially professional
See,
golf?
I look at it, in countries like yours or mine, and in our neighboring countries, cricket is a very popular game. Football is extremely popular in Bangladesh and in India. And we've also got hockey, which is very popular in these regions. So I would say that golf also has a very, kind of a strong chance of becoming popular. But for that, what we need to have is more facilities. And when you have more facilities, then the media has a better chance of knowing more about the game. even though the Asian Tour, the Indian Tour, and Indian golf by itself has done a lot in terms of trying to educate media, but I still feel that it is not enough. Because one of the biggest problems about golf is that media persons, apart from a handful of them, a very few of them, do not understand the nuances of golf. In fact, so much so, many people, when they come to a golf course, they don't even know what is a birdie or a par or a bogey or an eagle. And I'm not even talking about the number of clubs in a bag, like you can't have more than 14 golf clubs in a bag. What does each golf club do, whether it's a driver or a wood or an iron or a wedge or a putter? People don't know the roles of different clubs. Whereas what has happened in, say, games like cricket or even in tennis, when in tennis we progress from wooden rackets to kind of metal rackets and so on, fiber rackets and all, there was a lot of knowledge about it. But I think what we should learn is primarily from cricket. What the cricket boards in various countries, and particularly India, what the board did was through open a lot of facilities for cricket India all in there. And we had the board itself having, say, a lot of, say, statistical information and things like that. Because cricket became big, it was on television, so people started liking cricket. And when more people watch cricket, more sponsors come into it. So the board started making cricket very attractive. It used to be a 5 day test match. Then they introduced the 1 day cricket in terms of 60 overs. They made it even shorter by making it 50 overs. And then, well, we know what happened when T20 came and then when IPL came. I mean, cricket was an explosion. It became a global rage. Even though less than 10 countries played seriously, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan,
Yeah.
we are the Sri Lanka. Four of
All the
the
popular
10
countries.
four of the 10 test playing nations are actually from the Indian subcontinent.
And
So you can
Commonwealth.
imagine. So you can imagine, even Nepal plays cricket, even Afghanistan plays cricket. So there is a lot of cricket here. Why? Because people understand cricket. The boards have made an attempt to make it more popular to people. They have made it attractive. They have made it entertaining. And I think that is what golf needs to do. Golf has started doing that in Europe. Golf has started doing that in America. And it has also started doing that in Australasia, in Australia, etc. But in India and in Asia, we still need to go a little more distance. You have to have different formats. You have to get TV involved. But again, I know, because I worked very closely with television companies and the Asian tour and the Indian tour. It is not easy to convince the television companies, but we have to consistently make an effort. And the effort can only be made if we get our top players to play in the big tournaments at a domestic level. You will never see a Thai player missing a big tournament in Thailand. You
Yeah.
won't never see a big Singapore player missing a big tournament in Singapore. But
True.
you know what? The domestic tournaments in India do not get to see the big stars.
True.
Why did Ranji Trophy not become popular in India? Because the big stars were not playing in it. The big stars were playing in IPL, where there was more money and there was television. So the cricket board started doing things for Ranji Trophy. So that is how Ranji Trophy has become more popular than it was, say, 10 years ago. So the same way, if we did that for golf, there was an attempt a few years ago to create what we call as the Indian Golf League. Golf Premier League, and
Yeah.
it was a brainchild of Indian professional Shiv Kapoor, who actually has a management degree from Purdue University in US, and he put together an absolutely fantastic tournament. He had a Masters winner, Anil Cabrera, playing in it. He had Darren Clark playing in it. He had many top players who came here for the tournament, and it was held at Ambi Valley. It was a popular. If that had got the right support from sponsors and from the golf organizers in India, I think that had the potential to make the sport popular, because people would have understood golf in a way that they needed to. People don't understand, why do these men keep hitting a small little ball over 18 holes for 4.5 hours. You need to make people understand that's the way the game is played. They did not understand that about cricket initially. You played for 5 days and you still don't get a result. So when 1 day cricket became, people started understanding more about cricket. Now people are wanting to have the old format of cricket, test cricket, because it involves a lot of strategy, a lot of skill, a lot of mental ability. So when you have shorter formats of golf, you will automatically also start enjoying the conventional or the traditional form of golf, where where every club has a purpose, every shot has a meaning, and you have to shape and have to kind of perfect every shot. You have to get all those things into play. When you have golf, there are so many factors, there are so many nuances: the speed of the greens, the rough, the weather, the club, the ball, how you stay shape your shot, how you are taking your stance. So there are so many factors that you have to work all of them in one single shot every time. So it takes a lot of science, it takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of effort. And if we can get that message across, I think golf will be more popular. And if we have stories like the great story of, say, SSP Chaurasia in India, Sidikur in Bangladesh, you have Zamal in Bangladesh, we have so many other top golfers. So I think in a country like ours, India or Bangladesh, the moment we give these human stories of how golf changed the lives of people, how it got them a career, how it made their lives, I think then people will say, okay, golf has something good to offer to us in society. It is not just a rich man's game. It is a game that you and me, every common man, can play. In Europe, a caddy, Sevi Ballesteros, became one of the biggest legends of all time in Europe. So I cannot see any reason why we can't do the same in India, Asia, Bangladesh, or wherever you want. So I think it's a question of making it interesting and
Yeah.
trying to get that across to people. And for that, the organizers and the media, they need to work together. The organizers need to teach media, and the media needs to carry the the message. And I think the media can do a great job. It is trying within its own limitations, but I think greater consonance, a greater cooperation is needed between the two.
Okay, thank you very much for your experience, sharing out your experience. Yeah, you correctly said in Asia it lacks still, not like as in Europe or in USA. So wonderful experience from you. As you have been working both platform, like in electronic media, also you work for 10 Golf, if I'm not wrong. You also
Yes,
work.
I still do a lot of television. Yes,
Okay, you have also worked for almost all the leading newspaper of India and also
I've written
PTI.
in more. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
and also for the almost all leading golf magazines, and also in other sports magazines. Even
That's
to that matter, you have written the history. I mean, biography of Sachin Tendulkar, the genius masters who is known as. Okay, so let me now know from you a little bit more. Like as you were saying, organizers and media should work together. Organizers should invite them, take them on board to increase the awareness of the media personality. Now,
Absolutely.
the tendency in subcontinent, third world countries, media personnel all on a sudden it says no new game has come and it is spreading. Bangladesh is becoming a developing country where golf is trying to attract the eyes. So as a media person, I don't bother to learn it. I just make it at my own fashion, hearing, listening, or seeing from some PGA website or West Central website, just at my own. So how can we come over these barriers that a junior journalist like me, who how should he start working for writing golf?
See, when you mention Europe, when you mention America, they say that journalists can pick up information from the websites of the European Tour, the PGA Tour, etc., and a large extent from the Asian Tour also, etc. But what we need to do is you have to make golf much more easily digestible and understandable. If you can make that, you have to create stories. You have to tell people as to why is Chaurasia so famous, or why should we, why should Chaurasia be an inspiration for people, or why is G Milkha Singh such a big inspiration, why is Arjun Atwal such a big inspiration. You have to create stories around people. You have created stories around your best footballers, around your best cricketers.
Right.
If the organization if the Bangladesh Golf Federation or if the PGTI, I'm sorry, there are so many of my friends from PGTI who are also listening to this. We have to make Indian golf interesting. There are 300 professionals playing in India, and I'm sure Bangladesh also has a lot of amateur and professional golfers. And each human being is a story. If we can create those stories, and Tue, if she is listening from Myanmar, she knows a lot of people from Myanmar. You know, Zaw Mo has been one of the legends of Myanmarese golf. Chila Han is actually from Myanmar, but he's now living and he's been in Singapore
Singapore.
for
Yeah,
many, many decades now.
yeah.
But the fact is, we have to make stories and legends and popularize our own players. If we don't know about them, then people don't know who to follow. In cricket or in football, we know that who is Sachin Tendulkar, who is Sunil Gavaskar, who is Mahendra Ramanath, who is Rahul Dravid, who is Saurav Ganguly. We know them. We know everything about them. What kind of shoes they wear, what kind of food they eat, what is their children's name, where do they live, what color they like, what is their hobby. Why can't the organizations create a human face or a more popular face of our Indian golfers? Do we know so much information, say about say an Arjun Atwal, Anirban Lahiri, or say a Shiv Kapoor? We don't know even a fraction of that information unless and until you are obsessed like I am. I am obsessed. I am so close to these people, so I know a lot about them. I write as much as I can, but I am only one person, and there may be two or three other people like me. But I think what we need to do is to create these, heroes from our golfers and from our non-cricketing and non-football heroes, so that we actually follow these people and show them that these are also our great heroes. Now, where can you find Gaganjit Bhullar is so young, just 30 years of age, but he has won 9 Asian Tour titles. Anirban Lahiri is 31 years old. He has won so much. He has played at the Olympics. He plays on the PGA Tour for the last 5 years. Arjun Atwal is the only Indian to win a PGA Tour event. Jeev Milkha Singh has won so much in Europe, in Japan, and in Asia. Look at so many of these. Shiv Kapoor, he won 3 titles in a single year. There are heroes we have, but we need to carry them across to the people, and that can be done by the media. But for that, the media needs to be given that information, and that information can only come from golf fraternity, and the golf fraternity can only be driven by the golf federations, whether it is the PGTI, whether it is the IGU, whether it is the Bangladesh Golf Federation, or
Okay.
all the individual countries' federations.
So,
See, Asia and Europe are different because they are Asian tour and European tour. They have so many different countries. America is a single country. So, it is like, one country. So, where you have different cultures, where we are different. So, the individual federation of the country has to popularize its own golfer. I know a lot about Sidikur because he's a friend of mine. I have seen him for so many years. I mean, if Sidikur is listening here or something, I'd like to say hi to him. I mean, he's one of the legends of in Bangladesh golf and
yeah,
Asian golf.
yeah,
The
true,
first Bangladeshi to win on the Asian tour. Now,
yeah.
those are the kind of things that Bangladesh golf should promote and make him a hero. So when tournaments happen there, people should know Sidikur is here. So when tournaments happen in India, we must have, say, Anirban Lahiri or a Jeev Milkha Singh or an Arjun Atwal or a Shiv Kapoor. India has got 25, 30 people who play internationally every year.
Here, Mr. B. Krishnaswamy, here I want to add, as you
Yes,
said, you want to highlight you require to highlight the stars, but country like us or a developing golfing nation like Bangladesh, where number of stars is limited, like only one star we have. If I speak specifically, like Sidikur, we don't have much more stars like him in Asian level. So don't you think like country like us should not only not focus the star, we should also go and bring out the follow-up or sideline unsung heroes or those who have lost the course for some other reason of playing. So what do you think about that? Of course,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. See, let me also share with you.
Yeah,
You are talking about only one star from Bangladesh. I
right.
think there are more than one star from Bangladesh
Yeah, that's what we
because
want to say.
many of these stars have won the All India Amateurs, which is such a prestigious tournament.
Yes, it is.
Bangladesh produces a lot of good amateur golfers, but when they come on to the professional level, they may not be able to do as well, but they will slowly take some time. Golf does not have such deep roots in Bangladesh as it does in India or in many of the other countries. So Bangladesh will take a little bit of time. Now, a lot of Bangladesh golfers, four or five of them, they come and play on the PGTI tour. So they
Now,
are gaining experience.
yeah,
What Bangladesh needs to do is to work in conjunction, work in cooperation with, say, countries like India, and Sri Lanka must do the same thing. Sri
yeah,
Lanka has Mithun Pereira or Anura Rohana or Lalit Kumara. Similarly, Bangladesh has got Zamal and so many other players. All these players, they must help juniors, they must help amateurs, and the Bangladesh Federation should make it a point to try and send as many people, as many golfers, amateurs and professionals to play in India so that they can grow,
yeah,
they can learn. See, right now, India only has one or two people who play on the PGA Tour in America.
right.
We have Anirban Lahiri and we have Arjun Atwal.
Shubhakar
There are
Sharma.
not so many people. Shubhankar Sharma, he has played a little bit in America, but primarily he's a member of the European Tour.
European tour. Yeah,
So on the European Tour, we have Shubhankar, we have Chaurasia, we have Gaganjit Bhullar. Shiv Kapoor had a card, but he lost it. But he is going to try again. So there are four or five people. Chief Milkha Singh used to be on the tour. Arjun Atwal used to be on the tour. So there is a possibility of people going like that and coming up,
yeah,
and becoming stars in that. So similarly, the example of Indian golfers going to Europe, slowly the numbers have started growing. Slowly the numbers will grow in on the PGA Tour also. It may not be today, it may be 10 years from now. Similarly, for Bangladesh, they have to start looking at going out to play in, say, India and then on the Asian Tour. If Siddiqur can do it,
yeah.
so can
Others can.
others.
Yeah,
Others
yeah.
can also do it. So I think that is the should be the inspiration. Nobody gave Siddiqur anything on a platter.
Yeah,
He created it himself.
yeah,
He worked so hard. I've heard stories of Siddiqur. I've spoken to him. I know him so well. He has really worked very hard.
yeah,
So I think there is no substitute for hard work. I think
right.
that's the same thing which has happened with all the top Indian golfers.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think it's a pipeline which has to be helped by the individual golf federation of the individual countries, so that they can create a space in a larger platform like, say, Asia, then Europe, then America. So I
Okay.
think that is what we need to do.
Yeah, that is more important. Yeah, I just agree with you completely. I cannot become more agreeant to your points. Like, just to remind our audience, yeah, All India Amateur was owned by Mr. Jamal and Mr. Sohel. Shakaut Hussain Sohel. These two
Right.
players from Bangladesh has owned All India Amateurs. So it is for your information. Because you reminded me, so many Bangladesh, there is also a point. Yeah, we are developing nation, developing golfing nation. We lack records. We don't lack information. From your player like Ruthas Singh, like Mukesh Kumar, I came to know the first who are all of the professionals that played in PGAI or before that in 71. So in Bangladesh, like yours, before PGAI, Ruthas Singh's records are not there because he has played maximum tournament before PGAI. So our players are
Yes,
now playing in Sky because we don't have any record base. Our tournaments are not ranked.
I will.
So
I will tell
that
you,
is,
Mahmood. I will tell you. Before PGTI came,
yeah,
the big stars were
yeah,
Rota Singh, Basad
yeah,
Ali, Phil
yeah.
Pilling,
Ali Sher,
Brandon D'Souza. All these people were
Ali
such
Sher
big
also there.
stars.
Yeah,
Ali
yeah,
Sher was there, Yusuf Ali was there, Rafiq Ali was there, Feroz Ali was there, all the Ali brothers. So
yeah,
there were so many big stars at that time also. It's
yeah.
not as if golf didn't have it at that time.
No, I'm
You
telling
know,
the about yeah. For our case, we are overcoming these shortcomings like missing the records. We do not know our own history. We are in
even in
that.
India, even in India, the PGI records are missing. I'm trying to collect them and put it together for the
Yeah.
last 50 years. I'm trying to collect that as an individual. And there
Okay.
are people who have helped me also. Because what has happened is when PGTI took over from PGAI, the
Mhm.
PGI records went completely out of the window. So now when PGTI refers to as Mukesh Kumar, they only talk about Mukesh Kumar having won 25 events. But Mukesh Kumar has won, nobody knows whether he has won 75 or 100. Rohtas Singh used to win tournaments every week when he was young. Basak Ali used to win 10 tournaments in a year, 8 tournaments in a year. Nobody has those records. Very,
Yeah,
very few people have it. So I'm trying to collect those records. So every country has to make a starting point somewhere. So I
yeah,
think maybe you should do that for Bangladesh.
yeah, yeah. So please keep us in your pray. That's why we are trying to bring the, I mean, the moving history of Indian golf and Asian golf, like you, Chila. I brought Chilahan, I brought Koe, I brought ESPN journalist, I brought your Robin Ghosh, your Jit, Mr. Bikramjit Singh, and today you. So these stories, this history will give us, make us more resourceful. I'll go for the next point. As I was saying, in India now 8 players are playing in PGTI from Bangladesh, and all of them deserve, as you said, the young potential. Or after Situkuri is our flag, he will be there, of course, in the media
Absolutely.
as star. But after that, to find out the unsung heroes and other stories, as you mentioned, the club, how does club works, how does the swing of a golf, swing of a stick, what is the music of swing a stick, what is the nature, what is the snake is doing in the golf course, not only a picture of a snake, but what is the relation with the snakes to that golf course and golf. That is important. So yeah, I do agree with you all this point. So if you can share me now, media also has a very vital point to bring golf to economy. Like third world country like us, if you see Thailand, if you see Korea, China, they have more than 400 golf course infrastructure, and they are attracting huge economic investment by attracting tourism. So golf tourism investment, how does it help economy? Can you share your opinion, please?
I'm so glad that you've spoken about the economic role of golf, in a country's tourism. Countries like Thailand, fantastic example, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, Korea, Taiwan, they've all benefited from greatly from tourism. And in recent times, even Myanmar has opened its golf courses, and people are coming to play in Myanmar because they don't know too much about the country, and they've made it very attractive because they make the green fees less, they make tourist packages. In India, we are also trying, but what is happening is that the Golf Federation, as I said, the golf associations, whether it's the Indian Golf Union or the PGTI or all these federations need to work with tourism. And I'm afraid that they are not doing enough of it. Because how in India, for example, you have a golf course near a Taj Mahal. You have a golf course in one of the most beautiful places in Jaipur. You have a golf course in Delhi where you can see the Qutub Minar from a golf course. When you hit a shot, you can see Qutub Minar in the front. You have a golf course in Hyderabad near the Golconda Fort. So you have so many golf courses which are near historical sites, which are people want to go and see and love it. I think that has to be packaged much better, and that packaging can only come when the tourism officials and the golf officials sit together on a table. This is not about people just trying to make a paper or trying to just make something, kind of a plan which exists only on paper, which has to be popularized. People have to make it much more easier. I didn't share with you, I forgot to tell you, about 10 years ago, or 10 or 12 years ago, I wrote the first book on all the golf courses of India. And at that point, India had 225 or 230 golf courses. Now, the golf course count is about 275. At that
Right.
time, many of the golf courses were not designed by well-known designers like Gary Player and all that. Now we had only a very very few designer courses. In the last 15 years, we have got a beautiful golf course in Kashmir. We've got beautiful golf courses in the National Capital Territory, in Delhi and nearabouts, in Bangalore. So in Punjab, there are so many golf courses which have been designed by well-known names like Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, Robert Trent Jones. So, all these people, even the Delhi Golf Club has been recently redesigned, the greens have been redone. So, there's a lot happening. But you know what? The tourism ministry and the golf federation officials, they need to sit in the same room and plan it so that they make it attractive for foreigners to come and spend money. Golf
Ex-
tourist, the golf tourist is not he's not a, kind of a backpacker. He's a high spender. They
yeah,
stay in good hotels. They spend a lot of money. They
yeah,
want to see places. When I go outside, I want to see places, and I also want to see golf, and I want to go to the best golf courses. So
yeah.
you have to make that facility, you have to make all those arrangements. And India has a very well developed, kind of a, travel tourism section. But that section, very few people are focusing on golf, because not many incentives have been offered to those kind of travel and tour operators. They need to be incentivized. And the golf federation, and I keep coming back to the golf association, the golf federation, or the PGTI, or the IGU, they have to come into the picture. It is their moral duty, it is their duty to promote the sport. They are doing enough, they are helping juniors, but they need to do more.
Yeah.
They need to liaise with the government ministries. They need to liaise with big industrialists. They have to go and meet them. The cricket board does that all the time. The hockey officials have started doing it. Football has got the richest man in India, or one of the richest men in the world, Mukesh Ambani, to support
Yeah,
football. Do you think
yeah,
golf can't do that? Golf is
yeah,
supposed to be a rich man's sport. Why
yeah,
can't we get? I mean, we've got Tata Steel as the sponsor for PGTI, but there are many more others.
yeah.
So, like Hero does a lot of golf for internationally for they
What
support
on
full women's Hero Motorcorp. They support women's golf. They have the men's Indian Open, the women's Indian Open. They also do tournaments in Europe and in America. They sponsor a lot of players, but we need more sponsors like them. We
right,
can't afford to have just two sponsors. We need
right,
200 sponsors.
right.
In America, when one tournament is cancelled, there are five people waiting to come into it. There is a waiting list of sponsors.
Yeah,
Here, there is a waiting list of officials, and there is a waiting list of players, not of sponsors.
yes.
We don't have sponsors. So that is it. I mean, the whole thing has changed. On the PGA Tour, you had a John Deere Classic, which was cancelled at the last minute. Within
Yeah,
1 week, they found a
yeah,
sponsor in Workday. So they had a $6.5 million tournament there. So that is what has happened. So golf has evolved there. They made it much more interesting. They collect, and they tie up with charities for social causes. So I think that is all that we need to do. We have to make it we have to make it good socially. We have to show the benefits of it. We have to bring in the tourism dollars, and we have to create heroes out of our own sportsmen. And I think once you do all that, I think golf, like any other sport, will automatically grow. And I think that is something where we are lacking
yeah.
severely.
Thank you very much for your wonderful, wonderful advices. Let me read some opinions or comments from the audience. A lot of audience are pulled in by this time. They are logged in. So I have to name few, like Mr. Joy Sharma from Nikhil Singh from PGTI, Jagabandhu Rai. Maximum are our regular visitors. They are leaving comments. Others also are there connected, but not leaving any comments. So Toy has left number of comments. Mr. Atal Goni also, how many years you're doing journalism? I have told my introduction, maybe you've missed. He is doing he is a journalist, senior journalist for 35 years in India. He has covered 23 majors, 200 golf tournaments, 7 Olympic, 9 Asiad, and what else you want to know? He has visited 60 countries of the world only for covering sports like golf. So he has covered 9 Asian Games, 7 Commonwealth Games. So these are all his records that you wanted to know. Mr. Atul Goni, thank you very much. And then Joy Sharma, what do you say about the golf, professional golf in India and Bangladesh? Of course, I'll ask this. He has also a little bit have covered already. Professional golf, growth of golf in India, he has answered. Maybe a little bit of Bangladesh we'll talk about. And Nikhil Singh, how does he compare the Masters and British Open? Yeah, here is the interesting point. You have been covering almost all the Masters after 2001. And as you told me, this time also you're scheduled to go for covering Masters. So you have covered 23 majors. So can you compare like Masters and British Open? How does these six majors play in golf?
See, for me, I mean, I went to the British Open a little before the Masters. I my first major was actually not in 2001, but in 2006. I went to the 2006 British Open in Liverpool, which was won by Tiger Woods,
Okay.
and that was absolutely fantastic. And Shiv Kapoor played his first major in the British Open in 2006. So that was one of the reasons I went. And the following year in 2007, when G was invited for the Masters, I went for that. And for many of us Indians, the British Open holds, a lot of charm because, because of the difference in time. The British Open starts at somewhere in the afternoon when we in India, because of the time difference of about 4.5, 5 hours. Whereas in the case of the time difference between America and India, the time difference is 9.5 hours. So what happens is all the action takes place when it's the middle of the night in India. So many people tend to miss it. But when I saw the Masters for the first time in 2007, I fell in love with the golf course, and I don't think I've ever seen a more beautiful and a more manicured golf course than that. The entire place is so golf oriented. More than 50,000 people there. The merchandise, the amount of knowledge that people have about golf in Augusta, and also the same at the British Open. It is just fabulous. To me, out of the four majors, people say the US Open is the toughest, and the PGA Championship is the flagship event of the USGA. But for me, the two dream majors are the Masters and the British Open, the Open. So I think, which is what my aim every year is, to ensure that I go for both. And I do that usually, always. So I think both of them have their own points. The Open shifts between a whole lot of courses. I mean, it has a rota of different courses. I mean, this was supposed to be held at Royal St. George's this year. Unfortunately, the Open got cancelled. So the 2021 Open will be held at Royal St. George's, and 22 will be held at St. Andrews. I was lucky to see the Open at St. Andrews in 2010 and again in 2015. So God willing, I'll be able to see that again in 2022. And as for the Masters, the most unique thing is it's held at the same course every year, and everybody seems to think that they know the golf course so well, but every year it presents a new challenge. So I think that is, again, it looks so very, nice and easy to walk around on a Masters golf course when you see it on television. But when you go to the golf course, you realize they are so up and down. It is extremely tiring even to walk and see the players. So I can imagine how tired the players must be, playing there. And the greens are so beautiful. You just can't imagine such greens. They look like they're just unbelievable. They're like paintings, as if somebody has painted out there on the greens. It's so gorgeous. And the food, the atmosphere, the merchandise, the whole atmosphere in the town of Augusta, I think Augusta lives for what? Augusta lives the whole year just to experience that 1 week of the Masters. And the Open does the same for the town in which it is held. And both of them bring tremendous amount of economic benefit every single year. So I think that is how golf can be. Bring a lot of economic benefit for whichever town holds it, whichever city that hosts it. So I think it's the same thing with Ryder Cup or President's Cup or whatever. I think golf can bring in a lot of economic benefits. And I hope if the Indian tourism officials, the golf officials can convey that in the right manner, I think golf in our countries will also benefit, and tourism will benefit, and in general, the whole country will benefit.
Thank you very much. Just kindly stand by. Let me read a few more comments. I find a few other comments. You're from which state of India? And then somebody wanted to know, I just missed out maybe. Asking about majors. You have shared your experience in majors. How a journalist learns himself the golf. This question I asked to everyone almost. So maybe by seeing those, my known guy has repeated the question. I asked other senior journalists like you. How I also asked you, yeah, if organizers like in third world countries, what happens? organizers themselves in Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, in other Asian countries also I have seen, organizers themselves like federation, those who, they are not professionals. Ad hoc based people are running federations, Bangladesh Professional Golf Association, like your PGTA, IGU. Though your profession, your organizations have come a little bit of professionally. Like your PGTA is run by 100% professional people. Your IGU is
Absolutely.
run by uh, quite professional people, but not in the case of Sri Lanka, in Nepal, or in Bangladesh. Even to that matter, I saw in Myanmar and also Thailand, not 100% professional people. So professional people, by that I mean those who know to run golf management, those who know golf in details, in depth, like you. So thereby they lack knowledge, expertise to bring media, to integrate sponsors, to integrate professional players, to integrate all aspects of the professional golf in a same platform. So for those cases, the question goes that gentleman wanted to know how then a media person like in Bangladesh, how can he learn golf? Do you have any advice for him?
There is no substitute except read, read, and read more. If you read, if you follow, and if you watch, you will learn more. The more you see, the more you read, the more you ask questions, the more you will learn. Because
By
there is
seeing,
no
gentlemen, sorry to interfere. By seeing, you meant that some journalist learn trying to write on golf or learn golf, he must walk in the course. Am I correct?
Well, if he has to walk, he should walk on the course. He should speak to golfers. He should speak to officials. And apart from that, he should also read a lot. And if you
Yeah.
walk on the golf course and if you see it and say what kind of mistakes that a golfer can make, you can ask a golfer what was wrong with it or what was right with it. The effort is that no, a child cannot walk unless somebody teaches him how to walk. A child
Yes.
cannot run if he
Yeah.
cannot walk. So you first learn how to walk, and then automatically you will learn how to run. So I
Correct.
think what you have to do is there is no substitute for learning, reading, and experiencing it more and more. I go to golf tournaments, I can sit in the media center and I can do nothing, but I like to watch a little bit, I like to walk a little bit, I like talking to golfers, I like asking them questions. There are a lot of things I don't understand. I ask them, even after 35, 38 years, I still don't understand a lot of things. So the golfers, if you ask them genuinely, they will always be kind enough to tell you what happened and why it happened. So I think there is no substitute for that. No matter how old you are, we are always learning every single day.
Great words, the art. If our audience are there, anybody is involved in journalism, they will learn, they'll listen, it will work for them. Just I like to remind our audience, I like to express our gratitude to few of the players that you had been saying, playing in India's PGA Tour, in international tour like Asian Tour and Asian Development Tour. I could find out here in my records that Siddiqur Rahman is there in Asian level now at present. And next is Mr. Sakautu Sensuel, who is playing in Asian Development Tour. He's already has a card for that Asian Development Tour. He is playing there. Beside them, another 8 players is playing in PGTI like Mr. Sajib Ali, Mr. Jaki, Mr. Jamal, Hussein Mullah, Mr. Akbar, Mr. Russell, Mr. Ismail, Mr. Badal, Mr. Dulal. And beside them, Nazim and Dil Mohammad also was playing at times. So all these players, after Siddiqur, as I was telling you, because my professional players, I want to give them exposure. These are the players who are also there, should be there in the pen of media, in the picture of media. So these are the players, many of them are unsung hero. Like I should name one, Badal Hussain from Shabar. He is playing in PGTI. If you have any scope, anyone listening or my audience watching, you can watch Mr. Badal and his music of swing. You like it. So a lot of players are there in Bangladesh, as he correctly said, that it requires our help and assistance to give them a jump, to give them a coverage, to bring them in front. So lastly, Mr. B. Krishnaswamy, I want to know from you, lastly, about Bangladesh golf and Indian professional golf itself. Only that you have knowledge on Siddiqur and Jamal, few others. You yourself did visit Bangladesh. So far, you told me at least,
Yeah,
if not once.
I
Yeah,
have.
you visit Bangladesh. So you know Bangladesh golf. So can you share your experience on Bangladesh golf in comparison with India and other subcontinental Asian countries?
See, I have seen golf in all the countries of the subcontinent, which includes Nepal, which includes Sri Lanka, which includes Pakistan. I have been to Pakistan also to see golf. I went to Lahore to see golf many, many years ago, more than 15 years ago. And I have been to Bangladesh also. I think Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, they're all in the same position as their cricket was as compared to India 20 years ago. Today, Bangladesh's cricket is so good. Today, Sri Lanka's cricket is so good that they could actually be there right at the top of the World Cup. Nepal is good enough to qualify for the World Cups. Pakistan has won the World Cup. So I think all these countries have shown that it is possible to catch up. If you can do that in cricket, if you can do that in other sports, what is there different in golf? They are all sportsmen. In golf, it is an individual sport. In cricket, it is a sport of 11 individuals in a team. Look at the number of Bangladesh players who have started doing well in the Indian Premier League in IPL. Look at the number of Sri Lankan players. Look at the now we have an Afghanistan player in the IPL. So you know what? I think golf in all these countries also has the same potential. They started late, so they're not, still far behind. I have, for instance, I said that I've almost more than 20 years ago, I visited Bangladesh, I visited Dhaka, and went to Kurmitola Golf Club, where I saw the Indian team, the Indian amateur team, which had Rahil Ganji, Ashok Kumar, and Simarjeet Singh. They won the title in the first SAF golf tournament, and it was for amateurs.
Yeah,
Subsequently, the SAF tournament continued, and now, unfortunately, it doesn't take place. But I think that is the kind of tournaments that we must have. If we
right.
had even a professional tournament, a competition between a professional tournament, say
Yeah,
between as a team from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and you can only have say junior golfers from India. You don't
right.
need to have Arjun Atwal or Jeev Milkha Singh or Gaganjit Bhullar or Anirban Lahiri. You can have a lot of young golfers. We have youngsters like Kalin Joshi, Chikarangappa, Aman Raj. There's so many of these young players who are young guns of Indian golf.
Right.
Even other young players, Adil Bedi,
Yeah.
Kshitij Kaul. So many youngsters are there. In fact, you can never remember all those names because there are so many. So,
So
you have a team event like that, say of four from each. It doesn't necessarily have to be amateur. Even if you have a professional team event just for the subcontinent, it could be a great idea. You don't need to have a very big prize money
right.
because travel between our countries is cheap. The stays can be organized well. The federations can do all that. I think that is the way to promote golf within our region. And when you promote golf within our region, you will automatically have more tournaments, like you already have a few tournaments on the Asian Tour and the ADT and the PGTI in Bangladesh. Similarly, you can have in Nepal. Similarly, you can have in Sri Lanka. Why can't we have all those? So I think
Yeah.
once you have that, our subcontinent can also grow in golf like Europe does.
Yeah.
In some of the European countries, there are smaller tours. Why can't we have more tournaments there, like in our own region? They don't necessarily have to be very, kind of a big prize money tournaments. You could have smaller prize money tournaments with smaller fields for 3 days, not 72 holes, but maybe 54 holes, maybe even 36 holes. You have two tournaments or three tournaments in a 10-day period of 36 holes each with
Yeah.
smaller prize money.
Right.
So I think that will be the developmental part of PGTI, of Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and hopefully Pakistan. All the golfers in this region can benefit from that. You don't
Sure.
necessarily have to have a 72 hole, 50 lakh rupee tournament all the time. You can have a 10 lakh rupee tournament, 36 holes. In say a gap of say 10 days or 12 days, you have three tournaments. So everybody, all the players go to that place, they can make some money, they can cover their costs, and they can learn a lot. They can play on three different golf courses. I think that is the way to go forward. You have to be more innovative. I
Team
think
competition. Yeah.
Bangladesh has got the talent. We know it. You had just one or two players 20 years ago. Now you have about 10 players who are capable of playing in PGTI, ADT, or Asian Tour. Sidikur has even played at the Olympic Games. I met him in Rio. I met
Yeah,
him in Rio where he carried the flag for Bangladesh. He
yeah,
was so proud of it. And he stayed in the same. I stayed in the village, and he also stayed in the games village. And he was
okay,
so proud. And I have followed him even when he has played in Europe and on Asian Tour. So I
yeah,
think why he is the inspiration.
yeah,
And I think there are any of the all the other names that you take, Sohail or Jamal,
yeah,
Badal, they're
yeah,
all capable of playing good golf, and sometimes they do. It
yeah,
is just that they are don't have enough experience, and
true.
experience can only come when you play more. And if you
Yeah,
play more, you'll become better. And when you become better, you go on to a higher platform. I
yeah,
think I would say that Bangladesh has as much talent in golf as it does in football or cricket. It is just a question of time, and it is just a question of harnessing and nurturing that talent. And I'm sure in 10 years, if I'm alive, I'm sure
yeah.
you are a young man, we can be talking about how Bangladesh has actually grown in golf and can give India a run for its money.
Wonderful, wonderfully said.
And
So,
I must add one more thing, Mahmood, is
yeah,
that I write a lot on golf. I mean, I also tweet a lot on golf in Indian golf, Asian golf. I have a special love for Subcontinent. I just changed my name to my Twitter handle to at swinging underscore Swami. And I would love to hear from people. And if they have any questions, they
yeah,
can write to me on the Twitter,
yeah.
and I promise I'll send them back on direct messages. They can do anything, and you yourself, anything
Yeah,
that you want to know about
I'll,
India or world golf, I'd
I'll,
be most happy to share with you.
I'll just stand by. I'd like to make you hear some of the beautiful comments from Miss Kwe from Myanmar, and then JP and others for last time. Like Miss Kwe has written, economic benefit also just with merchandise before the tournament at the Masters. I don't know
Absolutely.
exactly what did he mean. Yeah, about merchandise he meant. She meant, and then JP writes, corporate. Yeah, Kwe again has written. Again, good to see Swami and Major Cho. Great interview. Golf and tourism can help the country if done properly. Okay, Mr. JP Sharma writes, corporates from Bangladesh should support professional golf to create and find more Siddiqui. 100%, absolutely correct. And then, okay, we go with these three comments. If you have anything for the last time about these three comments about our everything, if you have left out anything.
I would like you and any of the other Bangladesh golfers or golf followers, if they want to know anything about world golf, Indian golf, anything, I'd be most happy to share. Sorry,
Okay, no
I'd be
problem.
most happy to share with them. And please do keep in touch,
Yeah,
both of us. Sorry about it. I know I just suddenly got a sneeze because it was
okay,
a bit dusty. So
okay.
I'm very happy to share all that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. B. Krishnaswamy. Thank you for the comments that audience has thrown to you. Definitely, they know you. Especially my gratitude to Miss Toy, because she was one of my guests in this show. So I still remember him and his her and her brother Chilahan. So my gratitude and regards to JP and others, those who have logged in. Other audience, I cannot see all names, but a lot of names I can see. Mr. Samrat, one of the leading amateur in Bangladesh. Mr. Jagabandhu Roy, a software engineer. Mr. Asad Mamun, he's from Chittagong, all the way from Chittagong. Asad Mamun Bhai is a club member. Then Atul Goni Galib, Mr. Niaz Bhuya Bhai also is a golfer. Sakib Hussain, perhaps he's a journalist. Then some others 10 that I cannot read because this list does not show the all the name. Lorista Tinhi, maybe another name. So other names I cannot read. So thank you very much, all of my audience, all of the audience of this show. You are following a great man you have witnessed today, you have heard today, a running golf. If I say a running golf dictionary, I'll not be wrong in India. Thank you very much, Mr. B. Krishnaswamy.
Thank you so much, Mahmood. Thank you so much.
See you. Good night.
Bye bye. Good night.